Hey, good morning. This is Richard Hsu, host of Hsu Untied. This morning, I'm really pleased to have with me as my guest Jordan Jaffe, who's a partner at Wilson Sonsini. Jordan, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Jordan, let me start by asking you. I see you have actually have a college degree in both computer science and politics. Were you hedging your bets on your future career at the time?
Yeah, it's a good story. So I didn't know what I was going to do when I got to college. I was one of those people who was very sort of unsure of which direction I was going to go.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I originally started as a history major, was my first major, and ended up not going that direction. I was very interested in politics class and took a number of those. But I've always been interested in computers
Huh.
since I was playing with my TI-82 calculator in middle school and elementary school. Always very interested in technology. So I did take, but I wasn't a programmer or anything like that when I was a kid. And so I ended up taking a sort of computer science 101 class, I think my sophomore year,
Hmm.
and I really enjoyed it. It sort of scratched a different itch on the side of my brain.
Hmm.
I'll never forget, when you're first learning computer science and learning to program, it would be 2 o'clock in the morning in my dorm room, and I'd finally get the program to work, and it would actually run and not throw an error. And that feeling was just amazing that I had built something, and that was something that I hadn't experienced in any other context.
Huh.
Uh, and I found it, frankly, thrilling to be able to build something that worked, even my own little tiny, Scrabble program or whatever the case may be. So I really enjoyed it, and I started taking more classes.
Huh.
And by my junior year, I'd gotten pretty close to my requirements for politics, and I had a choice whether I could take sort of whatever classes I wanted my senior year that would be sort of essentially in my own interest, or I could push and double major with a computer science degree. And I decided to double major and do computer science. I ended up taking, to make it work, I took a class at UCLA for summer school in order to get all the classes
Mhm.
done. And given where my career has gone, I think it's probably one of the best decisions I've ever made to do that. And given how my career has gone towards technology um, in so many ways, it was turned out to be a fantastic choice. Now, the politics side, that's part of the reason I'm a lawyer. One of the classes I took was a constitutional law class when I was in
Mm.
college,
Mm.
and the adjunct who taught it, she was a practicing lawyer, and she taught the class sort of the only way that she knew how, which was sort of the style of a law school class where you would read the cases, she would come in and sort of ask you about them. Um, and that scratched a totally different side of my brain. So it was that also sort of led me to law school as well.
Did you think about a career as a computer scientist or a programmer? What happened to that? Obviously, you didn't do that, but what did you
I,
think about that?
I did. Really by my senior year, I was thinking about two different paths. One was going pure computer science, getting
Yeah.
probably a master's degree and going that direction. And the other was going to law school. And I wasn't sort of sure which one I was going to do.
Hmm.
Um, and it was one of those situations where I was like, well, if I am going to go to law school, I need to do the following things. And so I started doing those things and ended up deciding on law school, which has been 100% the right decision. I'm one of those sort of oddballs that got to law school and loved it. So
Hmm.
that when I got there, it totally sort of validated that direction. But I love technology, and I love that issues. Even now, I still am a voracious reader about technology news and technology in the law.
Just out of curiosity, what kind of programming languages did you take in college?
Java was the primary one.
Uh-huh.
Technically, it was a Microsoft version of Java called J Sharp, but that was the one that I worked on mostly. But other ones as well. I mean, assembly,
Hmm.
all the way sort of up and down the stack.
Did you take a compiler class?
So I didn't take a compiler class. That was one of the 300 levels, and that I didn't end up taking. I took a different one. But in my career, I've happened to have a later experience with compilers. So
Hmm.
it's been exciting to kind of learn about all those different things.
Interesting. Well, I was a double E in college, so I took a fair number of computer programming classes, which is why I was asking.
Yeah, of course.
So let me ask you, Jordan, I know you were recently named as one of the top 100 leading AI lawyers by Law Dragon, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. I mean, it does seem to follow nicely with your, your undergraduate background, but tell me a little bit about how you got this expertise in AI and how you're using it in your practice.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun. I was honored to be on that list, along with some friends and former colleagues on there as well. So that was very fun to see. Um, AI has been something that's been of interest for me for a number of years. I did work in the self-driving car space starting in the 2017
Hmm.
timeframe, and a big part of that relates to AI. Now, these days, a lot of people, when they think of AI, they think only of generative AI and large language models. That, of course, is not sort of the limit of AI. There's a lot of other applications um, and other ways to sort of practice AI. And so it's been an interest of mine sort of even before the sort of the recent boom. Recently I was talking with someone, a law student actually, who was very interested in this area. And I was telling them about a presentation that I did, I think in the 2018 timeframe on AI and the law and some of the issues that just happen to be sort of interest now, like can AI be invent on a patent?
Hmm.
And what is the copyrightability of the output of an AI? Those were sort of things that I was hypothesizing about, years ago that now seem to be the forefront. Um, but for me, in terms of how it comes up in my practice, one of the interesting things is I do, all types of IP litigation and other litigation as well, but focus on IP litigation and um, doing not just patent, but copyright, trademark, trade dress, and all those sort of items. And one of the things about AI that I think is interesting is it really runs the gamut in terms of what categories fall into and are applicable to AI. So years ago, I wrote an article about the importance of trade secret to protecting AI versus patents. And I think that's borne out to be true today. And so being able to have that sort of broad experience in thinking about AI, which really can come up in the trade secret context, and there's certain applicability in the patent context. That's been something that I've been able to. It's been sort of a focus of my practice over the past few years.
What are some of the applications of AI that you've really, delved into deeply through your casework, would you say?
Yeah, I've mentioned self-driving cars. I think that's sort of one as well. Um, there are also lots of other applications as well, having to do with recommendation algorithms, underlying sort of user interface aspects. It comes up a lot in terms of how a lot of products today work.
Yeah.
And so there are sort of AI cases per se, but there are also many cases these days that involve AI in one way or the other, especially when it comes to trying to understand, how are we going to protect this technology from an IP perspective, whether it be, as I mentioned, patents, trade secret, copyright, and understanding sort of where the protection is, where the potential risks are from a litigation perspective.
I mean, AI now seems so ubiquitous. It's hard to imagine a tech company that doesn't use AI in some way or another. I mean, even law firms are looking at using AI. So it definitely is the case.
Absolutely. There was a headline a few years ago that Microsoft was using or not Microsoft, sorry, McDonald's was using AI for their drive-through, and that to me was sort of the epitome of this everyone is AI situation where you have McDonald's doing it. It's everywhere.
Now, does your computer science background, does that allow you to maybe have you looked under the hood a little bit more and exactly how AI works and the programming that's involved? Just curious if you've been able to look at that.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I've definitely delved into, and sort of having that vocabulary to be able to understand the basic building blocks and how it works. So it's definitely something that I've looked into. It's of course a personal interest to me as well. My process often in learning about new technologies is going back and looking at the history of them.
Hmm.
And I do a lot of patent litigation. And when you do patent litigation, the relevant sort of technology time frame is when the patent was filed. So one of the things that I often do is go back and buy old textbooks
Hmm.
that are a couple versions ago, and no student wants those, right? No student wants the fourth version of textbook 123 when it's now in the 12th version. But so you can get them on Amazon for like $4. So I often do that, and that's something that I've done with AI as well,
Hmm.
especially when working on presentations. Some of the base concepts of neural networks go back really to the 50s and 60s.
Hmm.
And so reading those old papers when they were saying, this is the concept that we're trying to understand. And then there's so many layers on top of that, of course. But that to me is it provides sort of a great insight of what is the technology about and how it works.
Hmm.
And then you sort of layer on all the optimization that these incredibly smart people have done in the 70 years since.
When you work with clients, do you think they can tell that you have a computer science background?
Often they can.
Hmm.
It's interesting. I think there are great lawyers that don't have technology backgrounds, and there are great lawyers that do in the
Sure.
IP space. But one of the things, I was thinking about this the other day. Being able to really understand something is the key to being able to really simplify it.
Hmm.
And truly understanding something is the key to being able to simplify something. And that is truly important for being able to explain something persuasively to a jury, to a judge that may be not steeped in the technology. I think about this actually regularly because I have three kids, including a 4-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 9-year-old, and they're always asking questions that questioning assumptions. Why is the sky blue, or why is these things that we don't think about, and it constantly challenges me to explain things in a super simple way. And I think that's directly applicable to my practice as well, which is, can you explain this to such a way that you really truly understand it, such that you can simplify it in a way that makes sense?
Do you do any programming as a side hobby? I'm imagining you doing a little Arduino programming or something, maybe.
I sort of I do it in fits and starts. It's kind of the thing where I'm just excited to learn about new technology and get to sort of research all these different things and do them. But I find myself constantly looking at the next one and the next one. I do have Arduino stuff at home and different pieces as well. But it's constantly sort of looking at the new thing and trying all these new things out.
Well, Jordan, this has been a fascinating conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time. I loved hearing the story about how you weaved computer science into your career and became an AI expert. So thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
This is Richard Hsu and Jordan Jaffe. Thanks.